Nothing. Except what, Duncan? Pat went out with Angela a couple of times and what happened? Levi asked, when Duncan's voice trailed off. Duncan stared directly at Levi. He didn't want to ruin his relationship with his colleague by asking him to escort his sister to a family wedding, but his mother had pressured him to find a date for Angela to avoid a possibly embarrassing situation. Pat wanted more, and Angela didn't. Levi gave Duncan a long stare. Did more have anything to do with commitment? He didn't know why, but he felt like a police interrogator. Duncan nodded. Yes. He held up a hand. And before you ask, she does like men. She's just not interested in becoming that involved. Levi took another swallow of his ice-cold beer. He was 4 months into his 6-month commitment, providing care to the underserved community. His cousin, Dr. Mia Eaton Chandler, had decided to practice medicine in West Virginia, but he'd decided his skills as a physician were better suited to a mining town in northwest Kentucky. Duncan's request reminded Levi that since he'd arrived in Kentucky, he'd only been on one date. Levi had been honest with the woman, telling her up front that he couldn't commit to a relationship since he planned to return to New York in a few months. Since she wanted marriage and children, they decided to part amicably. He was scheduled to work from 9 until 2 the next day, and his Saturday afternoons were usually spent picking up dry cleaning and shopping for groceries for the week. He saw patients on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, and spent Sundays watching sports. He'd always been a fan of baseball and basketball, but since moving to Kentucky, he'd added football, tennis, golf, and NASCAR. As much as he didn't want to admit it, he'd become a sports junkie. Where's the wedding? Duncan carefully concealed a smile as he brought the mug to his lips. Louisville, he drawled, taking another swallow. I'll think about it, Levi replied. Lowering the sudsy mug, Duncan set it on the scarred oak table. How long do you intend to think about it, Levi? The wedding is in 2 days. Levi gave him a pointed look. He and Duncan Chase were the same age, 36, but Duncan's hair was prematurely gray. Despite that, Duncan was still one of Louisville's most eligible bachelors. Tall, slender, with masculine features and a tawny brown face, his large, deep-set, gold-flecked brown eyes were his most arresting feature. I'll let you know after I talk to your sister. What's there to talk about, Levi? He leaned across the small table. Is she aware that you're trying to set her up with a date? Duncan averted his gaze. Not really. Levi smiled for the first time, angular lines creasing his lean jaw. That's what I thought. He reached into the breast pocket of his jacket, took out his cell phone, and handed it to Duncan. Give me her phone number. I'll call her, and then I'll let you know tomorrow if I'll be her escort. Although he hadn't had an active social life since leaving New York, he also didn't want to waste his day off spending time with a woman who was totally incompatible. Duncan took the BlackBerry and added his sister's name and number to Levi's contacts. When are you going to call her? Tonight, he said. Levi glanced at his watch. Sorry, but it's about time I leave so I can call her before it gets too late. He retrieved his phone, reached into the pocket of his slacks, and dropped a few more bills on the table. Enjoy the music. He stood and walked out of the restaurant. The parking lot was quickly filling up with couples who'd come to the Rook for dinner, music, and line dancing. He signaled to a driver in a late